Hi everyone, it's Thursday night. It's time to go back to doing some applique again. So I hope everyone's had a good week. I've got some new equipment I'm trying to get used to. As you can see, I've got a camera boom, so that way I can actually work underneath of it now and should be able to see what I'm doing. Hopefully my hands won't be getting in the way anymore. So we'll see how this works. You know me and technology, we don't always get along very well. So this is what we're going to be doing. Okay, and we're going to do it a few different ways. So we're going to combine sort of the things we've learned. Last week we talked about machine guided applique. See, those stitches are perfect. You know, I cannot hand guide mine nearly this well, so we let the computer do this. So here we go. So this is a design that's already digitized like this. Now I did take it to my software and I did another version where instead of doing the satin stitch here, I did a blanket stitch so we could see how well it handles that as well. But we can do this same applique several ways. We can do it so that it's turned, and for the blanket stitch I like to turn it, so we're going to do that. And I'm going to show you on your applique. You can do this with any applique that you have. You're not necessarily restricted to satin stitch all the time, which certain things can kind of look cartoony. You know, this looks a little more cartoony, a little more childlike with the satin stitch. This is traditional applique done as we've done 100 times before, so we've done a lot of this. So anyway, let's get started with this design. Okay, so this design's just using the straight satin stitch, and then it's got embroidery enhancement as well. Well, if this design was already as a blanket stitch, you could also change this into a turned edge. The reason I don't like to do machine blanket stitch is because it's a raw edge applique, and a raw edge applique doesn't hold up to a lot of washing. Over time, washing and drying, the edges tend to fray. So if you turn that applique, then it's not going to do that. It's going to look finished and look really good, and its stitches will be perfect, not like I did last week. Some of those were a disaster, weren't they? So I have my design stitched, already loaded onto the machine. So I don't have to modify it to make this into needle turn. But what we have to do is a couple of things. So we have to first stitch it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just do the first stitch, and I'm going to do it. This is my placement. And wait a minute, I see a loose foot. Yep, got to make sure those are tight. Okay, there we go. And this is the normal placement stitch that you always see. Okay, I can turn that this way. Okay, this is normally when you put your fabric down, okay, and then you stitch over it. But for turned, I'm just going to put a scratch piece underneath here and stitch it. And that's usually where we put down our lavender piece, which is for the egg. But not this time. So after that's done, I'm going to take my hoop off of the machine. Let's go over here. So what I want to do is I want to remove these stitches. And I'm just going along, and it's just a straight stitch, so I don't have to be too picky. And here we go, I'll do it up here. And like I said, it does not have to be digitized for turned edge. This works on any of them that are like for a blanket stitch. Or if you have software, you can change it from a satin stitch, which is what I did. Okay, I have have it all out. And then I'm going to clean all the little threads off of here. Okay, then what I want to do is I want to take, you can see the holes where the needle pierced, and I am going to trim that. This gives you the pattern or the template for the needle turn. And I'm just cutting it out right on the dotted lines, on the needle holes. See? Right here, where's the needle holes? Right there. So now we're following the same things we did in, I think, week 1 or whatever. Over here, okay? So I want to take my glue, and I want to, this one is light, so you can't really see it, but it's the Elmer's washable school glue. Nothing fancy. You need a hot iron, so here's my egg piece, okay? And I'll just get another scrap over here. And no, I didn't press it ahead of time. I'm going to give it about 1/4 inch seam allowance. Heat set it down. Okay. I'm going to cut it out about 1/4 inch around. Leave a seam allowance about like that. And this was using the, what I call the tack down, or the tack down stitch, or the basting for the applique. And I'm going to just grab my scrap piece of paper. And I'm usually going to start on a straightaway, and I am just going to put glue, maybe not all the way around, but on the straight, I start with the straightest part. And a lot of this I can just finger press and use my screwdriver to make, suddenly went dim on me. Okay, and I got a nasty crease. And we're just going to pleat all the way around. If you like how it's looking, you can heat set that. And heat setting it keeps it from coming out. Oops, there's another pleat. This one thing I like about this, it lets you fix things. To round them out. And I think I need some more glue. And this is just like we did last week, or a week before last. If you can't find the links to those old videos, just send me an email and I'll send you the link. So, because I know sometimes people have trouble finding the links. Okay. Oh, yeah, no. Let me fix some of these little, see these yucky little points right here? That looks terrible. So I'm going to fix those little points. Smooth them out. There's one here and here. Okay. And then I'm just going to heat set it down. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my hoop right here, which is what we did before. So here's the piece. Now I'm going to take glue. It's hard to see, but I'm going to glue the inside of it. There we go, right up to the sewing line. It's hard to see that, but there is lavender colored glue on there. Okay, I'm going to put this just inside the line so that it covers, pretty much covers the line. Now, you can see the purple outline, okay? If you're going to do this, what I like to do is simply, just don't know why, there we go. We stretch it a little bit. That'll work, okay? Because until this glue is dried, I can stretch it out. Because something shrunk in there. I did not use one problem, it helps to pre-shrink your fabric, even for applique, because what happens is the liquid in the glue can sometimes shrink your fabric too. So let me just, there we go. Alrighty, when I have it like I like it, and I'm not seeing the lines, you want to have an iron that will fit inside your hoop. Those little triangular clover things work really well too. And I'm just going to heat set this. I want it maybe about 10 seconds worth because I want this to dry real thoroughly. Because now it's completely basted down. Okay. Alrighty, then we're going to go back to the machine and start stitching. Okay, now we don't need to have a tack down stitch. Okay, it's showing normally what we would have done is it would have done a tack down stitch that it would have sealed in the edges, but I don't need to do that. I'm going to start embroidering on the inside of the design. Now, there we go. See, it's going to do these two little lines here. There. Okay, I'm going to put in the green. You're threaded. And I'm ready. There, it's all done, ready to go. So it's going to stitch this inside decoration. This is why I like this machine. Now, if for some reason, now this can also be used if your thread is caught inside this tension thing somewhere. So what you want to do is you never want to just pull your thread out from here. What you want to do is you want to take it all the way to here. Oops, it's not cut. There we go. And then pull it. See, and then I just thread like this. Off we go. I take this other thread off and then hit the down, and here we go. Now it's gonna stitch that one. This is why I like this machine, and I will never, never, never give it up. Okay, and now I'm going to thread this with the lavender, because on this pattern, it's going to be doing the blanket stitch. If I were doing this as needle turn, I would skip over this blanket stitch. I don't have to do it. I can just skip over it, okay? And then I will hand needle turn it. I will, stitch it when it's all finished. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to go ahead and lower the presser foot, and we're going to let it do the blanket stitch. There it is. This is digitized, so it doesn't do the stitching around the lower edge because it's going to do regular stitching, embroidery stitching for the design right on top of that. Okay, yes. So anyway, see, there's your blanket stitch, but look how those are all perfectly centered onto the middle of the design along the curve. I can't do a blanket stitch that good. Okay, so now this is ready to just continue on with the design, and I'll just set this going. Just let it stitch, and that's like watching the grass grow. Not real interesting. But you know what? I'm going to come back to this. So I'm going to just simply note the number of stitches it's at. And you want to record a couple of things. Right here is your stitch count. So when I come back, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I'm going to come back. I will come back to this at 2960 or thereabouts. Okay. The other thing you want to note, if you had moved your design from anywhere but the dead center, you would need to, let me close out of this. You would need to note, right now I have not moved it. It's at the 0, 0 coordinate. And then it is at 0 degrees rotated. If you haven't rotated or moved it at all, because here, I'm going to go back to 0 and show you what I mean. Plus or minus, go back to 0, okay? But say I had decided to move this, that I wanted to rotate it, say, 10 degrees, okay? Note here it's telling me it's at 270 degrees. But now if I move it up or down, this almost fits almost exactly in the 4x4. I don't have much room to play. And if I rotate it, I can't rotate it. It's not letting me. You can either rotate. It's so tight I can't. I can either rotate or I can move, and I can't do both. So, but if I have moved it, here it's telling me that I have moved it up and down negative 0.16 and the left and right is 0. So what you would do is you would load your design back in, and you would then repeat this, make sure you move it so that these numbers show again, and then you would go plus or minus, let's see, return plus or minus, and go up to 29, was it 2960? Keep going, here we go. Too far, okay. And go down. Nope, too far. 29, close enough. 29.52, and if I wanted to be exact, I could. I usually go back about 10 stitches, see? So now I've recreated that so I could pick up the stitching right where it was. So, actually I'm not going to stitch again. I'm going to now pull this out, because here what you would do here. See how that looks? Say if this were not, this is all going to be embroidered over top of, so you don't have to seal it in. But if at the end I hadn't done this, then I would come back with the lavender thread and a needle and the silk needle and just stitch that underneath like I did for hand needle turn, and therefore it would look just like it was hand turned, which is what this one looks like. There. See how you can see here that, let me hold this still so I can't keep still, can I? Okay, so here I did the same thing. I put down all the pieces first, glued them down, and after this piece, and this piece were all glued, and it shows you where to put them, just as if it were a regular applique. And then instead of doing the blanket stitch around here and around this part of the wing, I simply skipped over it. And then I came along with a needle and thread, and you can barely see it. I don't know if you can see that. See, there's the stitching from the back that I did by hand. And so you can't really see. Very tiny stitches. And using that really thin thread, you can get away with that. So that, none of that where the fabric is, that's all pre-turned and then hand stitched down. So it does look just like needle turn. Same thing with the tree trunk. The tree trunk is a combination of embroidery stitches and the pre-turned and then hand stitched down. Same thing with the tree. So it was, after it was all finished, what I do when it's all finished, then I take this and I'll put it in water. After I'm done stitching it, then you put it in water because then it softens up. That's why I like to use that rinse away, tear away stabilizer. Then I take everything away from the back and it's nice and soft. And this is actually part of a quilt. So. It's going to give me the placement for the corona of the star. And I'll be cutting my fabric while I'm... Okay, and now it's going to tack down. So I just want to cover all of the stitches. Not quite. There we go. Alrighty, let it do that side. I'm going to now trim it, and this is the tedious part. And this is what's going to take the longest. Luckily, it's only one applique today. Oh, two. I got the middle. This is an applique piece. Now it's doing a satin stitch around. Yay, okay. So anyway, you guys have a good evening. If you have any questions, feel free to email me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. That's WALTZQUILT@yahoo.com. And this concludes our series about applique, my favorite thing to do. See you guys later. Bye.